All right, we're here. We are here. Greg, what
I
is
thought we
going
were going
on?
to get an intro for this thing.
I thought so too, but you know what? The everyday work life of our producers, myself, we are the intro. So we are the
You,
intro. So if
you
you want to
know,
go, I
you'd
can play
think
some music for you if you want. I
you'd
can
think
do
people were busy with things like, I don't know, voting or something.
it. Oh, we're not going down that road, Greg. Me and
Hey,
you
I
already
got to
talked
tell
about
you,
that.
I went out to vote on Tuesday, and I went over to the fire station over on Luetta,
Uh huh.
and it was so smooth, so easy. There weren't long lines. It was.
Yeah.
I saw these 5 hour lines in New Jersey, and I'm thinking to
Oh
myself,
yeah.
I am so glad I don't live there.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
I tell you, I believe in voting, and I don't care
yeah.
who you vote for. I don't care who you vote for. You vote for who you want to vote for.
Right.
But I don't think I would have waited in a 5 hour line to vote. I really
Man, I
don't.
tell you, I did that one year, several years back, and I waited to the last minute, and I tell you, man, it was like pandemonium in that place, and I learned my lesson. So I went early this year. I was like, I'm not doing that ever again. I'm not gonna get caught up like that. My time is precious. So yeah,
Salutes to you for voting.
100%, 100%. And I hope you did too. And you know what? Regardless of the situation, regardless of the outcome, guys, we are all one. And you know what? Today we're going to
Hey,
talk
wait
to
a
you
minute.
guys. Oh,
I don't care who won or lost. It's still fantasy football season.
it's
So
still
it's
fantasy
still
football
good.
season.
It's all
It's great.
good. Yeah.
It's great. And we got a great show for you guys today. Today, we're going to also get to our question and answer portion. We got the Idjit call of the week, which we'll talk about that. And then we got another new segment that I wanted to talk to you guys about called Flip the Script. And we'll talk to you guys a little bit more about that. But, Greg, how was your week? How have you been?
Well, it's been busy. Okay. So I started off on Monday and I set up, I'm leaving in February and my
Right.
license expires in November and Janie's expires in June and we'll be out of the country in June. So I went down to the DMV and I set up an appointment on Monday. Then Tuesday was voting day. Plus, Janie said, you need to get your eyes checked. And so I set up an appointment yesterday and they dilated my eyes. And I hate to admit this, I should not have driven home, but Janie wasn't with me. Driving with dilated eyes is not good.
I, I,
Okay.
I can
I was
imagine.
very careful. And my windshields and my side windows are tinted, which is the only thing that allowed me to make that drive. And then yesterday was my Wednesday fitness day, silver sneakers day, and we had a new instructor. And this was not the water one. This was the one in the dance room where we do aerobics. And I was dead, but I couldn't go home and rest because I had to go somewhere yesterday afternoon to set something up. I don't even remember what now. Oh, it
Greg,
was the eyes.
I thought you were
The eyes.
retired.
The
You
eyes.
sound like a
Yeah.
busy retired person to me. And then you
Yeah.
come and do shows with this. Oh my God.
Oh, I was exhausted yesterday. So today I get up and I wake up at 6 in the morning, heat my back, and I start to work on all your stuff that you sent out for the show today and tonight. And because I couldn't do it yesterday because I couldn't read anything with the dilated eyes. So I'm going to feel, yeah. And then tomorrow I got another water aerobics. So I think it's going to be Sunday before I feel rested.
Wow. Well, you look, Sunday's the day to do it because that's when we got a lot of football and we got some football questions. And here at the Sports Affiliation, we want to just take a minute to thank you guys, first of all, for supporting the Sports Affiliation. Go ahead, subscribe to the Sports Affiliation, like us. Also, if you aren't following Greg Kellogg, you see Greg Kellogg's profile right there. You see mine. Give us a follow. Follow all the people at the Sports Affiliation as well. They had a great show yesterday that I wasn't able to check live with Zen Carla and
Jesse.
Dr. Jesse
Jesse.
Moores, man.
Yeah.
I had a chance to talk to Dr. Jesse Moores at the Fantasy Football Expo. Couldn't have been the nicest guy.
And a real doctor. And a real doctor.
Yeah,
Not
everybody
a
first of all is
person
super
with PhD after their
right.
name. a guy that is a practicing orthopedic specialist.
Oh yeah, and if you guys aren't following Dr. Jesse Morris, he puts out videos of like different injuries, and he'll bring out models of like if it's an AC joint, if it's a knee, he'll bring out the models and show you guys how the actual injury took place and what it looks like right now. It is really really cool. Shout out to Dr. Jesse Morris.
And say hi to Daniel in the chat.
What's up, Daniel?
But basically, during the show, I asked a question about. Carla asked, "Have you ever had an injury that surprised you about the recovery?" Yeah. She asked Jesse, and I posted Nick Chubb. I thought he'd never walk again. The fact that he's playing now. Jesse went back to Chubb's knee injury in college and talked about that. So yeah. I didn't even realize that Nick Chubb had a knee injury in college, but he said it looked nasty and nothing got torn. He said the guy is a beast. The fact that he's playing right now after the injury we all saw last year, amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's truly amazing because you're right. What happened last year, what's happened in Nick Chubb's past, it's crazy to think that he actually is back on the field and playing at a pretty decent level. He's playing at a high level right now. It's crazy. But you know what? Again, at the Sports Affiliation, we always want to have you bring your questions to us, and we'll answer it. And we're always going to be positive. We're always going to stay positive, but we'll answer it to our best ability. And not only that, we're going to do the research before we answer it. So that's why I'm going to put in the chat in just a moment. You need to send your questions to tc_bookings@yahoo.com. Send those questions there. We will always try to get to them, always answer those questions. Sometimes if we don't get it on the show, Greg is working late at night. I'm working early in the morning. We are going to answer those questions for you, especially on Sundays when it counts the most.
Yeah, that's one good way to do it. But I would say a better way, because I don't always check that email. I know you check it more often than I do. I've missed questions in there. Send it to me in Twitter @GregoryL Kellogg. If you DM me with it, I'll be sure to get it into the show, or if it's a good question, or just answer it directly if I think it's a pretty easy one, or send it to Tipp. Any questions, we're happy to answer them, and we're happy to do the research. And I got to tell you, we have a show tonight where we're going to have two guests, a pro and a Joe, and we have a mailbag section there. And I had Tipp actually go out on Tuesday morning and get questions so that these guys could research it. Getting questions on Tuesday is dangerous. We will never do that again. And we'll explain why in tonight's show.
Yes, we will. And let's get to the questions that we have right now. Are you ready, Greg? Because I'm ready.
I am ready. Jose.
Right. Jose says he needs either Hunter Henry versus Chicago or Mike Gesicki versus Baltimore tonight. It's a tight end premium league. So
for me, I've always liked Gesicki, but I also know that they got a former Michigan tight end there that they like a lot, Eric Law. I know he went to Iowa too, but he started in Michigan. And here's some numbers I think are important. 968 versus 186. That's the 3-game target trends. And they favor Hunter Henry because 3 weeks ago he got 9 targets. They both have gotten 14 targets over the last 2 games, okay? Henry scored 11 points more than Gesicki, but, really 9 weeks, that's essentially even at this point, So neither is the epitome of consistency, but most tight ends aren't.
Yeah.
So let's check the matchups, because I think you have to look at the matchup. Yeah. Hunter faces the Bears. The Bears are pretty damn good. Gesicki faces the Ravens. The Ravens, my belief is the Ravens are good at stopping the run, but not so good at stopping the pass.
Right.
Okay. The Bears are giving up. Oh, God, I don't have it now. I lost it on my screen. But basically, I think 6.1. Okay. Baltimore is allowing 6.8 points per game to tight ends.
Yes.
And the Bears are giving up 6.1. Again, it's a push. So last week, Gesicki had 2 touchdowns. All right. I think the likelihood of a repeat multi-TD performance in a second consecutive week is slim. So I'm going to go with the more consistent player. I say start Hunter Henry, but this is one of those questions that this is an excellent question. I want to hear what you think, Tip.
Yeah, I'm going to Gesicki this year. I'm going to ride the hot hand, especially with T. Higgins being out. I think that is the key. If T. Higgins was there, I think you go ahead and you play Mike Gesicki. But you said it correctly. Baltimore and Chicago are both giving right around 6 points per game to the tight end position. So there is a push there. But I think that the fact that Gesicki it doesn't have to compete with T. Higgins. We don't know what Jermaine Burton's doing out there. He is that. Have you heard about that story? It's a wacky, crazy story that he came into the facility last week in pajamas. Then he went down and sat in where it came in pajamas to the game.
Was he stoned? No, I'm serious.
I don't know. It's so funny because Jim Rome was talking about it, and that's what the kids do nowadays. I could care less. I see them in the malls. They wear their pajamas. It is what it is. But I will say this. Later that night, somebody snapshot a picture of Jermaine Burton at a casino. So I don't know where his head is. He said the coaching staff said he's been sleeping in meetings.
Ditko really like this Iosivas kid.
I like Yoshi Vash. I've been talking about Yoshi Vash since the beginning of the summer. I like
him. And I do like Eric Hall.
Right.
I'm looking
Eric,
forward to this game. Somebody said that Thursday night football does not deserve this game, and I like the idea that I think this is going to be a very entertaining game tonight. You guys should definitely watch this Thursday night game.
Absolutely. And the next 2 Thursday night games, because we're getting 2 good divisional games. So the other thing about Eric Hall is he is dealing with a knee injury too, Greg. So we got to keep that into perspective too. So I'm going Gesicki on this one.
But Chase Brown is a good receiving back.
He is.
And you know me, I've got Chase as my stud to sit tonight. So tune in at 7 Eastern and you'll find out more about that. But I got to say, I just think you just don't repeat big days like that when you're a marginal player like Gesicki. So
I agree. I think that was a career week that he had last week. But I think, look, for a tight end to be successful, or to you to be successful at a tight end, what do you need? About 70 yards, maybe 6 receptions. If you get that touchdown, great. If you get that touchdown, great. I think that Gesicki is going to be a safer floor, a safer option this week against that Baltimore defense. All right, let's go to number 2.
Gesicki actually had a 0-point game this year, and Henry hasn't.
He hasn't. That is true.
Henry's been more consistent. But again, you're right. So we've got more questions?
We got more questions. So we're going to get to this next one. Josh needs to know. He wants to go with either Jaden Reed or Jackson Smith in Jigba for this week.
And this is why it's so dangerous to pick your questions on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming 3 things with this one. First is that the question is for this week's game, 2024, week 10. Second, that Reed is Jalen Reed, not Andre Reed. Third, that this was for last week, because both of these guys are on bye this week. And if my assumptions are wrong, I want Andre Reed from 1992 AFC wildcard game. He had 3 touchdowns, 136 yards, 8 receptions in the Bills' 41-38 win over the Houston Oilers. And since Detroit plays Houston this week, anything that puts down Houston is winning by me. And by the way, that was a 32-point comeback win, which was an NFL postseason record.
So I responded back to Josh, and he didn't respond back. So I was like, all right, well, we'll just run with it. And second of all, look, if you are playing Andre Reed, chances are you're probably in the Generations Fantasy Football League, which we got to remember about that.
They're great.
You're playing Generations. But look, you know what? Let's just flip the script and let's just say we'll do this one for the season, not for the week. Because
for the season, I want Jalen Reed.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. DK Metcalf is coming back. He's on his way back. He did not get traded. This offense, though, in Seattle, they are throwing the ball. Hopefully they can figure some things out because Geno Smith hasn't looked good the last few weeks. the
But
offense is not.
JSN did look good last week.
He did look good last week, but that also took the pressure off because DK Metcalf wasn't playing. Now you have possibly DK Metcalf coming back after the bye
Tyler
week.
Lockett.
I agree. I think Jaden Reed is the safer option in Green Bay because he can do it all. He's a utility guy, and that is the thing about him that it makes him safe. I do like Romeo Doubs, but you know what, Josh? For this one, we're gonna have to say Jaden Reed for the season, not for this week, because you're getting a 0 in that case, buddy.
Yeah, either way.
Right. And all right. So our next question is Nick. Nick got offered Lad McConkey, Tank Bigsby for Tyrone Tracy. Are you taking this deal, Greg?
Well, it's redraft PPR. So, yeah, in a redraft league, I am.
Yeah.
The only way I'm not is if McConkey is a starting wide receiver for me and I have no reasonable replacement. Tracy has 6 favorable matchups rest of season. All right. And no competition for his role. I mean, you got to remember the first 4 weeks, Tracy didn't play hardly at all.
Yep.
Bigsby has ETN coming back.
Yep. He didn't get traded.
Have you looked at Bigsby's splits at his game logs? The guy has something like 6 targets all year.
Oh, yeah, no, he does not catch the ball. Yeah.
This is a PPR league.
Yep.
Okay. I think Tracy has something like 21 targets this year. Oh. And again, he didn't play most of the first 4 games. And if you get points for return yards, that might push it a little bit, but I still want Tracy over both Bigsby and Ladd. And again, if Ladd is like my wide receiver 2 and I got nobody else, then maybe I would actually wait a week on this one. No, I'd do it now. I'd take it.
No, you have to get Tyrone.
Well, no, I would take Tracy now.
Yeah,
since he got offered, I would say no.
Yeah, no, you gotta keep Tyrone Tracy in this case, Nick. So I look, man, Tracy is, Greg just alluded to it, 6 easy favorable matchups, including this week against Carolina. If this isn't a blow up spot for Tracy, this could be a situation where he could easily finish as a RB1, because if the Giants are up early, because they have a really good defense, if they're up early, they're going to be running the ball, pounding the rock. That's what they're going to do. So I love Tracy going forward. I've drafted him, I traded for him in a couple of leagues. People were down on him. He really wasn't doing some of the things that they thought he was going to do. So they said, to hell with Tracy. So I took it upon myself to get Tracy on a couple of my teams along with Kareem Hunt. So I think Tracy is a player that you can utilize going forward. So I agree with you on that one, Greg. We agree. I try not to agree with you all the time, but
Justin Chase loves this show. Well, we love JC. JC, thank you.
Yes, thank you, JC, man. Loving it, brother. All right, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay needs one in the flex spot out of Deontay Johnson, Demario Douglas, or Ricky Pearsall.
All right. Well, for me, Chama Bay, not Champa. There's no P in there. Chama Bay. The safest and probably best play is Demario Douglas. Okay. That said, I think I'd go with Deontay Johnson. He's in his 2nd week with Lamar, clearly the better quarterback. I can't give Chama Bay a good statistical reason. It's a pure gut call for me. But, Demario's been very inconsistent this year. But, last week I thought Deontay would at least get 15 plays and maybe 4 or 5 targets. I don't even know if he got on the field. He was active, but I didn't see him.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the call with Deontay Johnson, especially this week, because I think this is going to be a week where he gets more snaps, and I like that. But
wait a minute. Jacob says it's got to be Douglas. Anyone besides Flowers on Baltimore seems like a dart throw. Now, I will say, I think Drake May does improve the chances for Demario Douglas over Jacoby Brissett. I really do. I think Drake May looks to him a little bit more. But I got to ask Jacob. any Green Bay wide receiver is a dart throw too, because you never know week to week who's going to get the ball. But one thing we do know is that something that Deontay's done his entire career is create separation. So I think that if he creates separation, he'll get the ball, and he's got a quarterback that can get it to him. So
yeah. This was my Deontay was my number 2 choice. Demario Douglas was. I didn't even consider him in this case because he's of the inconsistencies. I'm picking Ricky Pearsall. They're going against Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay defense that's given up 255 receiving or passing yards per game. This Tampa Bay defense, you saw what Patrick Mahomes did to him last week. That is Patrick Mahomes. I get it. But look, Brock Purdy, the San Francisco 49ers were off last week. That's another week for them to get Ricky Pearsall indoctrinated into this offense.
You're playing the guy that got shot.
Look, a shot or not, the guy is playing ball. And you got
it. How many? Now I want you to justify this. I want you to tell me. Right now, I don't know if Juwan Jennings is going to play.
That is the thing.
I don't know if Deebo Samuel is going to play. I do know that Brandon Ayuk is not going to play. I do know that George Kittle is going to play.
Yeah.
I don't think that CMC is going to play. If he does, I think it's going to be very limited. It's his first week back, and they have 3 weeks to actually activate it. So, I
don't think CMC is going to play either. You're right about Juwan Jennings. The Brandon Ayuk.
If Juwan Jennings and Deebo Samuel play, how much does Pearsall really see?
Well, we have to just say that we don't know, but we're going to say that Juwan Jennings doesn't play.
I'm saying he does.
If he doesn't play, Ricky Pearsall needs to be in. Look, the last time they played, he didn't have a lot, but what he did is he showed me something. He showed me he can be trusted upon as that Cooper Kupp 2.0 type of player for the San Francisco 49ers. Look, the San Francisco 49ers, they blew out the Cowboys in the second half. They didn't need Ricky Pearsall. But in that first half, they needed Ricky Pearsall. He went 4 for 4 for 59 yards in that first half. I think that Ricky Pearsall, as long as they're in this game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can score points. They average over 29 points a game per game this season. So I feel like Ricky Pearsall is a guy that they're going to need in a possible shootout. It could be a shootout. You know that San Francisco is going to score points against this Tampa Bay offense. I think this is the week that we see a surge for Ricky Pearsall. I think he beats both of his weeks that he's had so far. He's had 2 weeks. He's had 16 total points. I think he gets 16 points in this game just off of receptions and
best guess. Does Deebo play?
Let me take a look at Deebo. I think he's going to play.
I do too. He's been practicing.
But see, the thing about Deebo can be used everywhere on the field. That's the cool thing about Deebo.
But if he plays, he's the number 1 wide receiver.
He's the number 1 wide receiver. And then, and then Ricky Pearsall, to me, is the number 2. If Juwan Jennings comes in, now you might see more of a split. So it is predicated on Juwan Jennings. If Juwan Jennings comes in there and plays, then I could definitely see
Jennings is number 2 if he plays.
Yeah, he is. I'm looking up. Let me see what Juwan Jennings. It's a
which means Pearsall's still going to get play. He'll be in the 3 receiver sets
because he's a slot. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Did he practice?
They don't say he's the slot because San Francisco, like a lot of teams, moves players from slot to wideout. Deebo plays X, he plays Y, and he plays Z. He plays all 3 receiver positions.
Yeah, Deebo is, man. He's
and he plays running back.
I still don't have an update for Juwan Jennings. It said he's expected to return this week, but that was a week ago. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on that one. We may not hear much from that until maybe tonight or tomorrow when the practice reports come out. But I'm going Ricky Pearsall. I don't think you're wrong with going to Deontay Johnson, especially this week against the Bengals.
Who is Tampa's top defensive back, top corner?
Antoine Whitfield.
So do you think Pearsall, if Deebo sits and Jennings sits and Pearsall's the number 1 guy, Do you think he's going to do anything against Winfield?
I still think that Pearsall, because just the sheer
You
volume
do.
itself,
You think
I
that
still
he can
think,
beat Winfield?
yeah.
What if they were playing Denver? Do you think he could beat Surtain?
Sertan?
Yeah. I think Sertan would shut that boy down.
Yeah, Sertan does travel. He's a monster. He's beastly. Yeah, I think that's where I would probably draw the line right there.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't do that. But
Well, see, now I
I
think
like what
Debo's
Ricky
going to play,
Pearsall
and if
brings.
Debo plays, he
Yeah.
draws Winfield on most plays.
And I like what Ricky Pearsall brings to the table with this team, man. He brings
All right.
a different element with this team. He brings a short yardage possession type receiver, something like what Brandon Ayuk could have done. Brandon Ayuk is a better route runner. He's a little faster, okay, but that I like what Ricky Pearsall can bring to the table for this team. All right, let's go to the next. Oh, go ahead.
Is this next one from Katy, Texas?
No, it's from Katie. That's just her name. She asked, so what do you think? J.K. Dobbins and Jacoby Myers for Joe Mixon. Is that good? I'm in a PPR and it's a redraft league.
Okay, so I love Mixon. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you can wait 1 week, the price could come down. Okay. One consideration is that Mixon has difficult games for weeks 16 through 18. All right. Dobbins is always an injury worry. All right. And he has a more difficult schedule the next 3 weeks, but he has a great playoff schedule. Okay. So to me, it depends on your playoff prospects at this point. If you're likely in or definitely in, stand pat. Stay with what you got. If you need an upgrade to get in, I would consider the trade, but I would wait 1 week. Get the Lions game behind you first, because I think it's going to drive the price down that you have to pay, because Nixon, I think, is going to struggle against Detroit.
Yeah, and you know what? Ever since Devontae Adams has left the Raiders, Jacoby Myers has shined, and
that's a lot to give up as a second player.
I do think that is a lot to give up. You know, I would want to keep Jacoby Myers right now. He is hot, and it looks like it seems like when they come back from their bye, yeah, they got a tough game against Miami, but it seems like and then Denver, but it seems like Gardner Minshew has his eyes locked on Jacoby Myers right now, and Jacoby Myers is always good at getting separation.
Who else is he going to throw to right now?
Well, Brock Bowers. You have Brock Bowers, but you know he
does
have.
But that's a tight end. What other wideout?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. That is it. Not DJ Turner, not Trey Tucker. No, none of that. But I will say this: weeks 11, 12, 13, he has a tough matchup. All 2 of them are division rivals, and then the other one's Miami. Miami's been really nasty against the pass. They're giving up less than 160 yards passing this year. But then after that, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans for your playoffs. So, Katie, I'm holding on to this one because you have a good running back in J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, he's not quite Joe Mixon, but he's still very good. J.K. Dobbins has put in several top 10 performances this week or this year.
Who would you rather have?
So I would rather keep that.
Dobbins or Mixon?
I would rather have Mixon 100%.
Okay, so if you wait a week, tell them you got to think about it for 1 week, and then Detroit does what I expect them to do against Houston and really slow down Mixon, you don't have to give up Jacoby Myers. You can do Dobbins for Mixon even up maybe, and if not, you can do Dobbins for Mixon with a lesser player.
Yeah, and hopefully, see, if I was the Mixon owner, I would already be thinking of something like that. I would be thinking, hey, you know what? This week could be bad for Mixon. I still got to play him because that's my stud. But,
yeah,
you know, look, he could have a bad week. But after that, I'm looking at Dallas. I'm looking at Tennessee. I'm looking at Jacksonville. Then they have a
bye. You're looking at getting into the playoffs.
I'm looking at possibly getting into the playoffs or already in the playoffs. And then now, look, week 17, Baltimore. Now, that's tough. Kansas City, week 16. That's tough. Miami.
Yeah, it hurts you in the championship game. But to get to the championship game, you have to get to the playoffs first.
You have to. And what I would say though is, if I was really trying to go after Joe Mixon, I would try to go after a running back with the easier schedule. If I really like another premium running back like a Joe Mixon, keep those same two guys. I mean, because those are really good guys. But if you can get somebody, I don't think anybody would do it. But if you can get somebody like, I don't know, maybe a not a Saquon. You're not going to get Saquon for him. You're definitely
You're not going to
get
get anybody.
You're not going to get
anybody.
maybe a Kyron Williams. Greg, what do you think about that?
I think if I have Kyron Williams, I better have Blake Corum.
You better have Blake Corum. Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I'm still holding tight. I'm holding back, like you said. I don't want to get one player who, he's had a hell of a run, but you know what? That bye week is already still upcoming, and then not only that, the playoffs are going to be tough too.
If you folks are not following Anderson Coop in Twitter, follow him. He made a post today about players that have exploded after week 12 and won leagues for people. And so I asked him, which, I'm going to do. Yeah, okay, these players did this. Who do you have targeted for this year? And he basically answered. I mean, Coop's a good guy. Yeah, he answered with some possibilities. Now, these are guys that haven't done anything to this point. One of the guys he said is Blake Corum. If Kyron Williams goes down, remember, he lost 5 weeks last year. Blake Corum becomes a starter in a pretty good offense that's only gotten better the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, it's just the playing time for me with Corum, Greg. It's just
right now, he's got to have the starter go down. He does have to have.
I don't know if I want to just base it off of that with Kyron Williams. I get if Kyron Williams goes down, and he has had a history of going down, Blake Corum is the man. I love.
But if you wait until Williams goes down, it's too late to get.
It's going to be too late.
That's right.
It's one of those things. Yeah,
I've been holding for him all year. You know that I drafted him at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, for sure, man. I know you have had your affinity for these rookie running backs, and
Kamani Vidal this year.
Kamani Vidal, Blake Corum. Look, none of these guys have really flashed this yet, but it's still a lot of football left.
They've all flashed, but none of them have exploded or taken over the job. 13 carries, 86 yards for Jalen Wright. That's a flash.
That's
all right. Corum had that one big day returning the ball, and then also lit up like 25 yards rushing. That's a flash.
Yeah.
He showed that, if he averaged 6 yards a carry, that's a flash. And I think with Vidal was receiving. He caught a touchdown pass in a game. So, and now with Gus Edwards gone, if JK goes down, and he's always an injury risk, Kamani Vidal becomes a starter in a run-first offense, right? You agree, right?
I agree.
And if you wait till they go down, it's too late. These are players that they may do nothing, but they could win your league for you if something happens to the starter in front of them. That's the situation you look for at this point in the year.
Yeah, and real quick, Greg, before we transition to our next segment, Jacob said, Anderson Cooper, I thought he worked for CNN. It's Andrew Cooper. So, yeah, Anderson Cooper does work for CNN. You're right. And I just put it there to look up Andrew Cooper.
And I have to say that Anderson Cooper probably doesn't know squat about fantasy football.
I don't know. You'd be surprised. I'm pretty sure he probably is in a league or two.
I don't think so. I don't think this guy knows anything about anything.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Okay,
we should find out. Hey, Anderson Cooper, do you play fantasy football?
I will say he's got something in oh God, I can't think of the word now. I'm going brain dead. He and Andrew Cooper have something in common. When I first met Andrew Cooper, it was at the expo, and he wanted to interview me. He had Matt Deutsch with him. Matt had a camera, a real camera, not one of these little GoPros, a real camera. And Andrew had a microphone, like a real microphone. And he got me up. And so I asked him, because I like to flip the script, I said, so are you the face or the brains? And he said, what? And I said, well, on TV, you're either the face or the brains. And if you're in front of the camera, you're probably the face, and the guy behind the camera is the brains.
Well, what does that make us, Greg?
We're the brains that we don't really have a camera. I've got a laptop.
Oh, we have a camera. We're looking at a camera right now.
It's a laptop.
Okay, it's not one of those big.
It's
Sony,
not a real TV
yeah, okay.
camera.
Okay, yeah.
And
Shout out to
even on a
Bad
real
George too.
TV camera, they always interview the brains, but the person that does the interview is the face.
Is the face. Okay. Well, all right. So our next segment is, since you get to see our faces, we're actually going to talk about the Idjit Call of the Week. And what this is the segment that we just came up with. Basically, it is a prop bet that we saw and caught our eye, and we wanted to talk about it. Last week, we had DeAndre Hopkins. I think it was 65 and a half total yards receiving. Not only did DeAndre Hopkins eclipse that, he also got 2 touchdowns as well, as the Kansas City Chiefs.
And what did I say?
The Tampa Bay Bucks. You and Scott Gerhardt, who we'll have on the show later today, did say 100 yards. You were closer to 100.
I said if he gets 6 catches, he'll be closer to 100 than 60.
So he had 8 catches for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to you, Greg. So I was the Idjit from last week. The week prior to that, I won. So Greg was the Idjit. So we're 1-1. So this week, we have another player.
I'm 2-1. I'm 2-1 because this week you chose a question that has 2 guys on bye. So that makes you automatically the Idjit this week. But I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself.
Some of those questions too. I think that was you.
No, that wasn't me. And I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself. What is our Idjit of the Week question for week 10?
So our Idjit of the Week, our play is Chase Brown tonight, 55 rushing yards.
Now, folks understand, every Thursday night, we each select one player as our stud to sit. Chase Brown is the running back 10 currently in the Beat a Hall of Famer League scoring system. All right. So he's a top 12 running back, and I'm saying he's going to score less than top 25 points this week, which is basically about 11 or 12 points. I'm still saying he's going over 55 yards. I just don't think he scores, and I don't think he catches many passes. I think he scores about 10 fantasy points. So I'm taking the over, even though I'm down on Chase Brown.
Down on Chase Brown. All right. Okay.
You like the way I did that?
I did like that. I like that. You know, I'm always down for some wordplay, Greg. So that was nice. So I'm going under. I'm giving. I'm going under with this one. 55 yards against this tough defense. They just added Khalil Herbert. I think Khalil Herbert gets some touches too. Although I think he might even show up a little bit in special teams. We might have to keep an eye on him there too. But look, Baltimore 75 rushing yards total per game this year. That is tough. And Chase Brown has already played the Baltimore Ravens. He only had 46 yards rushing in that game. I'm going under. I do think that he gets somewhere around that same. Under 55 is definitely the number here. I think this is a game where the receivers get off. Chase Brown might get a couple of short yardage. He might get in the end zone, maybe not. Might find himself in the end zone because of situations with that pass defense in Baltimore and getting goal line carries. But yeah, I'm going way under on this one this week.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Jacob says Ravens allow 55 a week. I checked and it said 71 rushing yards per week. But
yeah, I'm looking at it right now. 75.
Okay.
Jacob, check your sources, Jacob.
I went to Fantasy Football Database, which is where I do all my fantasy points allowed by player.
Yeah, and I go to team rankings.
Okay. NFL so bottom line is it depends on who you use for your source. But here's what I want to say. I'd say it's time to flip the script. And the reason I say that is because I think Jacob was actually in the Facebook Fantasy football group, and I think he asked what we think about Tyreek Hill for the rest of the season. I told him to tune in tonight because you were going to address that.
Yeah, I am. I am going to address that. And I'm going to address it now, too, because this situation with Tyreek Hill, he sucked. He has sucked. Let's just say it. Other than week 1, he has absolutely done nothing for your teams. He's got 1 touchdown on the whole season. But I will say this week he's going against the Rams. And team rankings, Jacob, says that the Rams give up 2 touchdowns, which is really 1.9, but I'm going to round it off to 2. 2 touchdowns per game. They give up over 240 passing yards per game. So I feel like this is a week that we get to see Tyreek Hill do something against a defense, finally. And I think this is a week that he goes off. I have him ranked in my top 10. I think that Tyreek Hill, from now on, also has a really easy schedule as well. What's really important about his schedule, especially in the playoffs, is week 15 through 17. He is playing the Texans, the 49ers, and the Browns, all favorable matchups. So this is something, if you have Tyreek Hill on your hands and you waited this long, trade deadlines are coming up for fantasy football, but you can't trade him at this point because this is going to be the week that he does something for you. And then if you, by somehow, are in a winning record and make it to the playoffs, you've got a guy who can do drastic things to defenses. And if you have that guy Tyreek Hill on your team, he could drop major points for you. And if he does in the playoffs, then you're good. But what's unless?
Tua. If Tua gets a concussion,
we don't want to say that. We don't want to say that.
I don't want to see it, but I'm saying that is a reason that I would not have gone with Tyreek or Jalen Waddle. I think both, if Tua's healthy, are great picks for this position. But for me, okay, last week, Patrick Mahomes was ranked 21st among quarterbacks. Okay. And I fully expect him to rebound bigly, as our new president would say. But I don't think anyone is going to give him up after week 9. I told people to start him last week instead of benching him, which with only one top 12 performance. Well, with one top 12 performance in the first 9 weeks or 8 weeks, he was ripe for being benched. He really was. He just wasn't performing. But I looked at that Tampa Bay matchup and said, keep him in your lineup one more week. And he finishes as QB3. So I think he is going to rebound, but I don't think anybody will give him away. So I don't think he's a good pick for this segment. Instead, I think even though he has a very tough schedule, Nuke has one of the best quarterbacks in the game. A viable deep threat, a decent running threat, and the best tight end in the game, taking away attention. So for me, last week showed DeAndre Hopkins can still get the job done. 2 touchdowns, 86 yards receiving, and he suffered with really substantial quarterback play and coaching in Tennessee. All right. Hopkins got season highs last week in targets, receptions, receiving yards, and TDs. Now, I don't expect him to get 2 TDs this week, but I do think he could get 1. And I think the future is so bright, I got to wear shades.
Where are the shades?
Well, I don't have shades on.
Oh, great.
I'm not outside, baby. I don't have shades to put on. Remember me? I drove with my eyes diluted and no shades.
Well, you know what, Greg?
I live dangerously.
I can tell. I can obviously tell, especially with the Hawaiian shirt. I can tell you live.
Well, it's the closest I have to Honolulu blue.
There you go, Greg. All right, so last segment. We don't get to do this in the Thursday Checkdown, which is coming up in an hour and 16 minutes. So tune into that. Check out our posts. But I will say this.
Hey, and one more thing. If you're going to watch the game tonight, tune in to the Sports Affiliation watch party.
Yes.
They'll be on. I assume JC's in the chat channel. JC, let everybody know where they can find the watch show if you're doing it tonight. I think he is. He's done it every Thursday night. So tune in to the Thursday night watch party.
It's
Okay.
always a good time in there hanging out with those guys. I've been to a couple of them because I try to really sit in and have some time to watch some football. But yeah, it's fun with them.
Jacob says Hopkins could be a league winner if he stays
Oh
healthy.
Yeah, now that I do agree with
he
you.
He showed he can get open. I
Yeah.
mean that second touchdown in the back of the end zone.
Yeah,
he was so open. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, no, that is a really good call. I think as soon as DeAndre Hopkins landed in Kansas City, it was like, he wanted to be there. You can tell that the team needed him as well. So it was a very mutual. I think that DeAndre Hopkins, if those people hung on to him, I have him in one league and I did hang on to him. And I'm very happy right now because he's like my wide receiver 4. And so it's going to be fun.
No, he's not. He's like your wide receiver 2 going forward.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, he is in that league, I went heavy on the wide receivers. So he's literally like my flex guy. Like he's my flex guy.
Before we get into the last segment, I got to say, remember when I first came back and I said that I thought it was crazy, all these people doing 0 running back draft strategy?
Yeah.
Somebody posted today, 0 RB is not working out for people this year.
No, it's not. It is not.
Hero RB.
Hero RB is the one that you should have followed this year, I think, because the thing with the Hero RB is you could have somebody like a Saquon Barkley, a Derrick Henry, or a Bijan Robinson, and still have a really good wide receiving core in some cases. I have on the Scott Fish Bowl. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I've got Bijan Robinson and I've got Justin Jefferson and I got Devontae Adams and I even have, I think, DK Metcalf too. So that is a league. That is a team that is really doing well in that league.
I screwed up Scott Fish. I bought wholehearted in on Curtis Samuel and Debo as wide receivers. And I really thought that my rookie running backs would explode by week 4, and none of them have.
Wow. All right, let's get to the last bit, and then we will close up shop for today. The game tonight, it's a divisional game. I think it's an important game, especially an important game for Cincinnati. This is a really, really, really big game for them. I talk about crossroad games. Last week, 2 weeks ago was a crossroad game for the Cincinnati Bengals against Philadelphia. Philly knocked them out, beat up on them pretty good. Last week, they went and beat up on my Raiders. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. This is another big week for them. This is a week that they get a chance to take it to another level. What do you think, Greg? Who's winning tonight's game?
Well, I think Baltimore is winning. It's a home game. That always matters. Also, I think the loss of Higgins. Baltimore is weakest against the pass. Now, everybody thinks they're great against the run. They're not. They are good. Detroit is good. Detroit's 7th against teams in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs. Baltimore's 8th. They're not giving up a ton of fantasy running back points, which is one reason I'm going with Chase Brown as my stud to sit this week. But they have been very susceptible to the pass. And I think Joe Burrow can torch anybody on any given day. Thursday night game on the road, I think, is harder than most. But the advantage the advantage that I think Cincinnati has in this game is that on Sunday in Baltimore, they're expecting rain showers, which would impact the passing game. Not so much today. So I think it's going to be a good field. Since it's a night game, it's cooler, so you don't have the heat. I think it's going to be a very good game. I just think King Henry is going to eat against that Cincinnati defense. He is going to eat, which right now I think Baltimore has a time of possession advantage of about 31, 32 minutes per game to 28, 29 minutes per game. And home games, they're better than their average. And if they feed the ball to Justice Hill and Derrick Henry, that shortens the game. It just does. And I do think that we see Deontay Johnson. I wouldn't be surprised 5 or 6 targets in this game. And if he does what I think he'll do, I just think that even opens up the running game more. And I don't think you have to do a whole lot for Henry. I think, a slight crack and Henry could take it to the house.
Yeah.
I just don't think that Cincinnati can keep up with Baltimore.
I will say this: in the last 3 games, Cincinnati has allowed less than 100 rushing yards.
Who against?
So that's the thing. The Raiders, okay, whatever. Philadelphia, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, okay.
That's a big one. And let me see. I can go back and see who they played. Cleveland before that. Cleveland
with a subpar,
very
75% chunk.
So I will say this. I will say that Joe Burrow also, the last game, if I'm not mistaken, he had
throw for 5 touchdowns.
He had 5 touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens. So here's the thing: you could either have
not against the Ravens. He had 5 touchdowns last week.
No, he had it last week, but the last time he played the Ravens, he had 5 touchdowns too.
Oh, he's done it twice now. Okay, I didn't realize.
The last time he played the Ravens was it's actually in October of 2024. 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joe Burrow likes to play the Ravens.
They better get somebody on Chase all night.
Look, exactly, and look, and he's had several games where he's had multiple touchdowns against this team. He likes to play in Baltimore. And that game, the 5 touchdowns, guess where it was?
Baltimore. Clearly, or you wouldn't have brought it up.
So actually, I take that back. It was in Cincinnati. The one before that was in Baltimore. I'm sorry, that was in Cincinnati. But I will say this: he still likes to play the Ravens. The Ravens defense has been not good at all this year. I think that he torches the Ravens defense, but you said it right on the head. The thing is, you cannot stop Derrick Henry. You can only hope to bottle him up as much as you can. But as the games go longer, and you said it's going to be a cooler night. It's a cooler night. Those hits. I don't know what the temperature is in Baltimore. We can find that out. But the nights get cooler. He gets on. He keeps going and keeps going like the Energizer Bunny. Derrick Henry, those arms get tired of tackling 250 plus pounds of just pure muscle. So I think that you're right. I think that the Baltimore Ravens just keep running the football with Derrick Henry, utilize Justice Hill. I heard a little somebody talking about maybe Kenton Mitchell might be coming on as well. Sorry, I got tongue-tied, but might be coming out as well. If that's the case, I don't think we're going to see much of him, but I do think we see a lot of Derrick Henry. We see a lot of Keaton Mitchell. There it is. That's probably a mess up. It's Keaton.
Hey, let me ask you something before we get off this. Was it Joe Mixon that had that reverse hurdle play
last week? No, that was Barkley.
Barkley. That was the prettiest run I've ever seen.
It was insane, Greg. It was insane. Have you ever? That's what I was going to ask you, because you've watched a lot more football than I have over the course. Has there ever been a prettier? You watched Barry Sanders.
Barry.
Exactly.
Barry had pretty runs, but I never saw Barry leap backwards over a tackle attempt. I never saw that.
Yeah, that has to be. That'll be something cool to talk about. Maybe at the end of the season we can talk about the coolest play.
One more political thing.
Oh God!
I saw a meme with Donald Trump's head pasted on Saquon Barkley's body for that play, and Kamala Harris's head on the tackler. I don't care who you voted for. That's funny. That's funny. That
is hilarious. So let me see. So that was Big Draft Energy who talked about Keaton Mitchell coming back.
Keaton.
Keaton. He is active. He's active for Thursday Night Football tonight.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he is.
And he's better than Justice Hill when healthy.
Yeah, he kind of can do a little bit of everything with speed. So Keaton Mitchell is a player that we could be taking a look at later. Not this week though. Don't go ahead and play him this week in any of your lineups. DFS if you want to take a shot, but I wouldn't recommend it this week. I think it's going to be a big Derrick Henry.
Did you see what Jacob posted in the chat?
No, but I saw what Chef said. Chef said that Mitchell isn't practicing yet. Rashid Ali, who is back. But
Okay,
nah,
but
Sheffy.
Jacob said Barkley would have been investigated for witchcraft back in the day.
Oh, that was crazy. Yeah, dude, that was
a great run. I don't care.
That was an insane
who you
run.
like, who you don't like. That was a great run.
And Greg, before he even hurdled that dude backwards, did you see that?
He had
spin
made
move?
a couple great moves.
That spin move was nasty. That spin move was like Washington.
That backwards hurdle only got him about 4 more yards. It didn't get him a lot more, but it just looked so cool.
It was sick, so man. Cool. Sick. Well, that's all for us today. We had a great show. I love it. I can't wait to see who the idiot is going to be next week. I think it's going to be Greg because, Greg is he's just a natural idiot, so, we're just going to.
I work hard at it. I really do.
All right, guys.
Hey, guys, tell your friends about the show. Invite them in. And if you guys have questions, again, send them to Tipp or I either in Twitter or through tc_booking@yahoo.com. We'll get it on the air. If we get it a couple days in advance, if we get it on Tuesday or Wednesday, that gives us time to research it. So we're not just shooting from the hip. We're actually giving you a statistical analysis.
And look, 1 hour and 4 minutes. 1 hour and 4 minutes. The Thursday check down will commence, and we will be here. We will be ready for you guys. And look, what does Chef say? He said Mitchell is a waste.
Well, because of the ACL.
Yeah,
it takes 18 months, and that's why I say the same thing about Jonathan Brooks. And news of the week, they signed Chuba to a 3-year extension. So what does that mean, guys?
I made a post a couple of weeks ago where Coach Dave Canales came up and he was in a conference, and one of the reporters said, "Is there a chance that we don't see Jonathan Brooks this year?" And Dave Canales just said, "Yeah, absolutely, there's a chance." So them signing Chuba Hubbard, I'm so happy that I kept him in those 2 leagues that I have him in, because
I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
this kid has put up great work ethic this year.
He has.
He deserves to be rewarded for that. And even if Brooks comes back and is everything they thought he would be when they drafted him, Chuba will get a job somewhere based on what he did this year.
Absolutely. Well, that's our show for today. Again, 1 hour and 3 minutes. Tune in. The Sports Affiliation Thursday check down with Greg Kellogg, myself, and then we have Scott. We got Scott and Scott. Oh, this is going to be tough, guys. We're just going to have to figure something out. Scott T, Scott G. I don't know. This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be fun.
Pro Joe.
There we go. All right.
Scott Pro, Scott Joe.
Scott Pro, Scott Joe. All right. So, hopefully Scott Tabachnik. Hopefully he doesn't think he's too much of a pro. He's a wise guy. I like him. He's got some cool comments that he's been sending to us. But other than that, that's the show for today. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, like Greg said, tell a friend to tell a friend. So tell 2 friends to tell another friend. So we appreciate you guys coming on and jumping on with us. And again, if you guys have questions, comments,
get them to us.
Get it to us, guys. Even in the show, if we have time, we will answer for you. Also,
that way we don't have to answer questions about last week.
There you go.
Idiot.
All right, idiot. All right, peace out, guys.